Shirley here with Sirius Dallas Moon. This is Venus Hour, Saturn night. And the reading that I have Midheaven 28 degrees Aquarius is kind of like a mundane energy reading. Now, disclaimer, if proceeding on to listen brings you peace, do so. If not, it's not the timeline, the reading, the trajectory. Now, after that disclaimer, I'm going to have an eclipse conjoining Al-Qaeda, which on a mundane level brings besieging and destruction of cities, opposing Saturn-Neptune, which anyway has to do with mass death, and trining Uranus-Sedna, and trining Pluto. So there's a kite shape of transformation. At this point in time, I received something. Pluto is in the sign of communities. Uranus is in the sign of cities and civil war clock, but also indigenous communities with Sedna. Saturn, Pisces, orthodoxy, religion, ritual, ruling over out of bounds. Pluto can be like a global cult. And so what I'm getting is that certain people might pass away, and because Mercury is ruling over Sedna, they may be the Sedna people in their community. And the reason that they pass away has to do with the rituals, the outdated rituals in their communities, but also their own inner trajectory. Very simply put, it can be people that, with Saturn in Pisces, and again, not for everyone, they may have chosen to end their current incarnation, not in the sense of suicide at all. Okay, for those who believe there are certain trajectories where a person can kind of opt out, this could be one of their own windows. And Mercury is about a window. Um, and again, this is going to be a very surprising eclipse with a lot of just a lot of things that were. So this is one trajectory, and those people, because of certain communities, and it can be conjoining of communities. For example, think about a person is saying, "Oh, the atmosphere is changing, and neither the previous one nor the upcoming trajectories are hospitable to life." And those people might pass away. And what I was seeing around them is kind of like bonfires, but of people that are already dead. I prefer to say already dead because I don't know why bonfires. It's kind of like bonfires, and it seemed like small bonfires, and it seems to be that those that harvested on the deceased energy are ending up in some sort of a way in those bonfires. It's not at all a witch hunt, by the way. It was more looking like mass death but mass death of the villages and the cities that harvested on those individuals that kind of opted out because of a conjoining of factors. And this is, again, it's not a suicide. They opted out so as to connect with their own life, very simply put. Everything around was harvesting on their energy, so much so that they simply opted out because they did not see a world that makes a place for the living. And what happened to all the communities that were participating in that on a global scale is these bonfires. And again, I don't see them being burned alive necessarily, not at all. It's just that they were not feasting, but feeding off of an energy that opted out, and it's not even a blame trajectory. It's kind of like, with Sedna, it's kind of like hurt people, and those that are opting out are basically reconnecting with the thread of life in their death, and I actually see it as more peaceful or even curation of death. Like a remedy, and the people around them are somehow ending in these bonfires, but it's not like they're burning alive. And I think that this opting out puts an end to a certain ritual that was supposed to have been taken as a ritual sacrifice, that the energy of the living was, they tried to feed on the energy of the living to feed this ritual, and those living opted out. Now I understand. And they even maybe have an ability like to manifest their death because they connected with the living in a way that would opt out from people being able to feed on their energy to do those rituals. Because what happens is the people that feed on other people's energy and attack the light, they just feed on it to just attack the light again and perpetuate those cycles. And they do, again, they do it because of their hurt and rituals and so on. But those that they were reliant on their energy to have just a bit of energy to attack the light again, those people are opting out. One way or another, they're opting out and they're not contributing to the ritual. They're kind of removing their presence, and that may very well be their presence in the physical incarnation. So to not feed, and it's not an act of sacrifice at all. It's actually an act of standing in one's power. So to not feed those rituals, and their energy will no longer be able to be harvested once they are dead, or once they are somehow removing their presence. And this is why this death comes as very peaceful, very content. Yes, there's grief and so on, but it's also ending archaic rituals. And the death is the mass that is still arriving, but it's kind of like a sweetening of the situation, because this is basically keeping the events from being horrid, or keeping or reducing from the and it's a mundane reading. Those people that particularly were relying on feeding upon one's energy to perpetuate evil rituals have rendered the people that they were relying to feed on their energy in a situation where those people will no longer be, so that this evil will no longer be able to be contained. It can denote of a nuclear holocaust, it can denote of mass death, it can denote of many, many things. But I saw like little bonfires that are the souls of those 1111 as I speak. I don't know what that's trajectory, but this the souls that were trying to feed on these souls are ending up somehow in those bonfires. And those bonfires are kind of like the torches of light in a very dark reality that caused those mass deaths. Yes. And the particular people that are removing their presence were the people that were not accommodated for unless they would be even soul trafficked. They're removing their presence. They're gonna be dead to those who try to do those things one way or another. Just gonna be and those that were reliant on either trafficking them, but it's not just trafficking, it's harvesting on their trying to harvest on their souls. And people never consent to sell their soul or anything like that. And trying to harvest on their soul, trying to even create an imagery that was kind of like an invalidating the edge, kind of like, hey, those people never sold their souls. And they never consented. Not that anybody can consent to such ritual, but those people are basically there. It's kind of like they have this. They understand that their death is um, going to end the ability to do those rituals. And it has to do with food. Their souls were basically, their energy was basically being used as food, and they are in there that taking that food away. Those are the Sedna people. They can be, many of them can be single people, or single parent, or single person, or even children, or single people that had something to do with solitariness and singlehood, kind of like the Sedna story, okay? It can be teenagers, it can be children, it can be single people, it can be the loner people of the town, or people that might not even be loners by nature, but they just did not find an environment that supports and nourishes life effectively enough that they can sustain. and they're removing of their presence. And again, they're not unaliving themselves. They simply pass away, they simply cross over. And what's it causing is that there's nothing more to feed on. And those that fed on end up in these bonfires. Again, I'm not seeing them being burnt alive, I'm not seeing suffering, I'm not seeing anything of that sort, okay, to make it okay. And even if Neptune conjoining with Saturn can bring dissociation, um, and the dissolution of suffering, okay, um, because even the people that were harvesting on those energies, they were perpetually abused and perpetually perpetuating abuse, so much so that they did not make place for the living, and so the living passed away, taking the entire cult-like societies with them. Not a bad reading at all, um, but definitely not an uplifting lovey-dovey. Okay, um, it is Al-Qaeda, and it is a passing away, and there's something about a deep sleep. Not euthanasia necessarily, not anything like, okay, it's kind of like there is a deep sleep, falling into a deep sleep. And those that are partaking in the feeding on essences of life or souls trajectories are going to end up in these bonfires. Again, it's not about suffering, it's not about being, it's not about, they're not even being sacrificed. It's just like they're ending up alchemically, they're ending up in these bonfires. That's all I have to say.